Tonight, there are innocent people all over the world who hope because of us, who believe in a better life because of us, who are desperate not to be forgotten by us, and are waiting for us. But time is of the essence. I know we have our divisions at home. We have to get past them. We can't let petty, partisan, angry politics get in the way of our responsibilities as a great nation. We cannot and will not let terrorists like Hamas and tyrants like Putin win. I refuse to let that happen. In moments like these, we have to remember who we are. We are the United States of America. The United States of America. And there is nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together.
This is my video update from Vienna, Austria on this October 20th. Let's talk about some news. Viva la mama. Mama, I'm sorry for what I said when I was hungry. Cool restaurants. Viva la mama. Living la vida loca. All right. Let's talk about living la vida loca, because we had Biden, Professor Biden. He spoke to America yesterday from the Oval Office, dressed in a very somber black suit. And Biden, he talked about the conflict in Ukraine and the war in Israel. And Biden, he said three interesting things, in my opinion. Three main takeaways from his address to the American people from the Oval Office, Professor Joe Biden. He said that the U.S. support for Israel and for Ukraine is in the U.S.'s national interest, and it's about American national security. So he said that. He said that getting money to Ukraine, continuing to support Ukraine, is a smart investment. And he said that Hamas and Putin cannot be allowed to win. We cannot allow Hamas and Putin to win, I believe, is the direct quote from Professor Biden. Three very interesting statements from the US president. Israel and Ukraine are US national security interests. Interesting words from Professor Biden. Ukraine is a US national security interest concern. Okay. A smart investment. Ukraine is a smart investment. It used to be about Ukrainian democracy and Western values and human rights, fighting the evil dictator and authoritarian that is Putin, preventing Russia from recreating the Russian or the Soviet or the whatever empire that they were talking about, preventing Russia from invading all of Europe. That used to be the narrative as well. But now it's just a smart investment. Now it just makes business sense to continue to give money to Ukraine. And we know that Biden wants to give $60 billion to Ukraine. So he's going to call on Congress to provide money, urgent money to Ukraine and to Israel. $100 billion, Ukraine, Israel, and even Taiwan. He's going to throw in some money towards Taiwan, because that's the next war that Biden wants to get the U.S. involved in. He wants to entangle the U.S. in three conflicts, a hat trick, right? Like scoring 3 goals. Biden wants Ukraine, Israel, Hamas, Gaza, Middle East, and the big one, which is Taiwan and China. The Biden hat trick. A smart investment. Here's what Zaharova, the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman, this is what she said with regards to Biden's smart investment statement during his address from the Oval Office. And I quote, "They used to call it the fight for freedom and democracy. Now it turns out it's just a calculation. Wars have traditionally been a smart investment for the United States. Since they did not take place on American territory, they did not care about other people's costs." Exactly right, Maria Zakharova. Exactly right. What's the narrative from the U.S. and from the neocons? And Biden is a neocon. Always has been. Always will be. His 50 years as a senator, he was a warmongering. Is that a word? Warmongering, a warmonger neocon. And the narrative from the neocons, from Lindsey Graham and McConnell and all of these guys, Mitt Romney. The narrative, Nikki Haley, let's not forget neocon Nikki. The narrative is that Ukraine is a good investment, smart investment, because the US is only spending 3 or 5% of their military budget as they destroy. Sometimes they say degrade, sometimes they say destroy. As they destroy, we'll go with destroy, as they destroy 50% of Russia's military capacity. It's a great investment. We only spend 3% of our military budget, and we've destroyed 50% of the Russian military. 50% destroyed, poof, disappeared, demolished, for only 3% of our military spending. That is how good of an investment this is. Russia's military has been destroyed by 50%. That's incredible. It's like saying if Russia has 100,000 soldiers, now they only have 50,000. If Russia has 5,000 tanks, now they only have 2,500 tanks. 10 airplanes, 5 airplanes. 2 guns, 1 gun. 50% destroyed. What a great investment. You would think that if 50% of the Russian military has been destroyed, NATO should be able to just stroll right into Russia. All the way to Moscow, remove Putin from his seat of power. Putin, you have to go, and make their way all the way to Vladivostok. Gobble up all the energy infrastructure, all the gas, all the oil. I mean, 50% of the Russian military has been destroyed. That means that the U.S. is halfway there. Up the budget, the military spending from 3% up it to 6%. And destroy 100% of the Russian military. Why not? Good investment, isn't it? And then we have and by the way, Zakharova is right in her statement, and I've said this a couple of times on my video. Alexander has said this. The Duran, we've said this. Brian Berletic has said this. It's not about Ukraine anymore. It's not about fighting for the Ukraine people or for their human rights or for their democracy, the shining Ukraine democracy, which, by the way, Ukraine is now passing a bill. The parliament in Ukraine, they're passing a bill to ban all things Russian, including the Orthodox Church. Yeah, they're going to ban the Orthodox Church completely because they believe the Orthodox Church has ties to Russia. So they're going to ban religion, but they were telling us that it was all about democracy, human rights, values, and all these things. And now they're just coming out with the truth. Biden is speaking the truth. Come on, man. I'm speaking the truth, and I'm Joe Biden. It's a good investment for the military-industrial complex. Ukraine, we want you to continue to fight Russia because for us, it's a good investment. Fight Russia, get annihilated by the Russian military, because for us, it's a good investment. Damage Russia to deter China, because that's the next conflict. It's a good investment to damage Russia so we can deter China. That's money well spent. 50% of the Russian military destroyed. Money well spent. So Ukraine, keep on fighting. Here's 60 billion. Come back to us after the elections take place, and just keep on holding off the Russians as long as you can. Just don't collapse during the election, during the campaign cycle. Please don't collapse Zelensky regime. Ukraine, that is what Biden is telling the Ukraine government to the military of the people. Please don't collapse until after 2024, November 2024. 3 wars. 3 wars is what Biden is aiming for. And, I've been saying it for months. And then me and Alexander have talked about this. The Biden White House, their strategy, when they realized that they had lost this war, when they lost the economics war, when they put all the sanctions against Russia, and Russia not only survived, but prospered and is now booming. I mean, the Russian economy is booming, right? When they survived the economics war, Russia essentially won the overall conflict, right? Regime change wasn't going to happen because Russia's economy is survived, and is now thriving. And that's when the Biden White House, that's when they said, I think, and I think this is proving right now, I think Jake Sullivan and the DNC, the Democrats, they said, you know what? Let's just figure out a way to get this war past the 2024 elections because we don't need another Afghanistan. And that's what they're doing. But now they're creating another conflict, or they're supporting the escalation of another conflict. They're supporting it. They're not calling for a ceasefire. They're not calling for a mediation. And that conflict is in the Middle East. And this is going to be a big one. This is going to be a bad one. The U.S. is getting mixed up in something that the U.S. should not get mixed up in. 1 second, there is a lot of wind all of a sudden. Beautiful tree. There was 0 wind all morning, and all of a sudden a big gust of wind. All right, now it stopped. So the U.S. is getting involved in a war in the Middle East. That this is a huge mistake, or they're escalating. They're pushing for escalation in the Middle East. And actually, Bloomberg ran with an article today which said that the U.S. is more involved in the war than is being reported on. 1 sec. I think I have this statement from Bloomberg highlighted. According to 3 unnamed senior Israeli officials interviewed by the news agency Bloomberg, the role and influence of the U.S. in the Israel-Hamas conflict are, and I quote, deeper and more intense than any exerted by Washington in the past. So, the U.S. is involved in this, and they're definitely escalating for a bigger conflict. They're not calling for peace or mediation or anything like that. The U.S. is calling for escalation. Anyway, let's walk into the city here, and maybe we'll get away from the wind. And if not, I'll pause the video and put on my dead cat here, so we don't have the wind messing up the audio of this video. And the final statement that Biden made, which I thought was interesting, was linking Putin with Hamas. We cannot allow Hamas and Putin to win. That was the statement from Professor Biden. We cannot allow Putin and Hamas to win. Notice he doesn't say Russia. It's Putin. We cannot allow Putin to win and Hamas. So here we see Professor Biden, the script writers in DC, they create the linkage between Hamas and Putin, preparing America for 2 conflicts, for 2 wars, Putin and Hamas. Those are the 2 wars. Cannot allow them to win. And just wait, pretty soon, Xi Jinping will be thrown right in there. He'll be thrown into the mix. Putin, Hamas, and Xi Jinping. Let's talk about links, because this is a false link. This is a lie. And America's being pushed towards multiple conflicts, with the Biden White House leading the way. The Biden White House is going to take America into 2 and eventually 3 catastrophic wars. This is the wrong guy at the wrong moment to be pushing America into these wars. But let's talk about the link here. Putin and Hamas. Hamas, let's see here. Hamas. Let's give a very simple summary. Very, very simple, because this is complicated stuff. But let me give a very simple summary about Hamas and links. So Hamas, Muslim Brotherhood, Egypt, they removed the Muslim Brotherhood government. In a coup, al-Sisi takes over. Egypt is now part of BRICS. Egypt despises the government of Egypt despises the Muslim Brotherhood, right? The Muslim Brotherhood also has ties, from what I understand, to Erdogan, or they used to have ties to Erdogan. I don't know what those ties are anymore, but there's a history there. Qatar is the real sponsor of Hamas, not Iran. Qatar, the country that didn't they host the World Cup and everything was fun and happy and everyone was celebrating the Qatar World Cup. Well, Qatar is one of the big backers of Hamas. And it was Hamas that was working alongside IS, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Turkey, and the United States. Am I missing a country? To overthrow the Assad government. That was Hamas. They despise Assad. They absolutely despise Assad. They tried in 2020, I think that they tried to fix up their relationship, but there's bad blood there. There's bad blood there because Hamas was supporting IS. The same IS that Russia, Iran, and Syria defeated. And Trump stopped funding, but make no mistake about it, on a military level, it was the Russians, along with the Iranians, and of course, Syria, that defeated IS. And IS was getting support from Hamas. And the US friendly name for IS, just so we understand, real linkages, like real factual links, the US friendly name for IS was moderate rebels. That's what the Obama White House labeled IS. They made IS very friendly for the US population so that they could get on board with the coup, the regime change in Syria. So they labeled IS moderate rebels. And then they started funding the moderate rebels. And that was the Obama-Biden White House. So if you really want to be more factual, you shouldn't say Putin Hamas. That's not the link. If anything, Putin fought Hamas in Syria. Russia fought Hamas because they fought IS and they destroyed IS. Never forget that IS, they were 14 kilometers away from the capital in Damascus, from completing the color revolution of Syria and overthrowing Assad. And it was the Russians that stepped in and they bombed the crap out of IS. And then the Iranians came in and the Syrian army, they got confident and they demolished IS. And then Trump, being smart, seeing the writing on the wall, and being very smart and very clever, he stopped funding the moderate rebels that Obama labeled them. Anyway, that's a very simple and basic summary of the real links in this conflict. But you can see that Biden, once again, is lying and trying to convince America that this is going to be a war not only against Hamas, but it's against Putin, and they cannot win. We cannot allow them to win, according to Professor Biden. Anyway, that was Biden's statement. from the Oval Office. We're one step away from all-out conflict. Okay, I know where I am. Let's walk up this way. And you know, things are very dangerous now because all the pieces are in place for some sort of false flag to happen. And once they get that false flag, they're going to try to get the entire American public on board for all-out war. War against Iran, war against Syria, and of course, you're involving Russia as well. The false flag dynamics are all there. Just yesterday, you had attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria. Remember that the U.S. illegally occupies the north of Syria, illegally occupies the north of Syria, though no one says anything. And you had attacks on these bases. According to the news reports, these were attacks by Iranian-sponsored groups. I don't know if we should believe any of this, but that's according to news reports. You have the report that the U.S. Navy, a warship from the U.S. Navy near Yemen, they intercepted multiple missiles heading towards Israel as well. And so you have all of these ships now in the Mediterranean. You have all the dynamics in place for a false flag operation. They're all there. Did I walk this way? No, I didn't walk this way. No, I thought I was going in a circle for a second. So this is where we are. One false flag event. You have ships in the Mediterranean. You have bases, U.S. bases everywhere. It's not going to take much for something to happen, which will then lead the U.S. to go all in, and the Biden White House to go all in, and the neocons to get the wars that they've been pushing for so many decades, right? Iran, Syria, Russia. This is a neocon dream. MTV, they canceled their MTV Europe Awards. I'm surprised that people are still watching MTV, or that MTV is still a thing. But they were going to have their MTV Europe Awards. You see, I want to get over there. That's where I want to get to. So I'll go like that. So, yeah, they canceled these MTV Europe Awards, which were going to take place in Paris. Canceled because they're afraid of terrorist attacks. Because you had attacks in Brussels. I think you had in Paris as well. I think you had in Vienna. I don't know if they were terrorist attacks, but they're worried. So they canceled the entire awards event. So all 5 people who actually watch MTV or follow MTV are not gonna be able to see the MTV Europe Awards. There's gonna be 5 people in the world that are gonna be very disappointed. And then you have reports that the U.S. is going to reroute shells, 155 mm shells, earmarked for let's go up, for Ukraine. They're going to be rerouted to Israel. Now, interesting. Which way do I go? Let's go this way. The interesting part is that these no, I've done a circle, bro. Man, I need to go down this way. Now, the interesting part is that what they're going to reroute to Israel is actually the stockpiles of the shells that were originally in Israel, and the U.S. depleted those stockpiles in order to send them to Ukraine. Remember, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when the conflict first started, when the war first broke out. The US, they had a huge stockpile of ammo in Israel. And they took that ammo and they gave it to Ukraine. And now Israel is coming back to the United States. They're saying, you know, wait a minute, we want that ammo back. You need to replenish that ammunition. And so that's what the US is going to do. No video. Achtung. So, yeah, the ammo has to go either to Israel or it goes to Ukraine. And the ammo that they took out of the Israeli stockpiles, well, that's going to have to get replenished because Israel now wants the ammunition back so they can use it in the whatever operation they're going to be launching. I'm going to say ground operation, but we don't even know if that's what's going to happen. Anyway, yeah. So I talked about this story a couple of weeks ago, and sure enough, it's true. The U.S. has depleted stockpiles of weapons that they had in Israel, and they're going to refill those stockpiles, and Ukraine is not going to be getting the 155 ammo, which is critical for Ukraine, like essential for the Zelensky regime. All right, so covering a lot of ground here as I'm lost. Once again, lost in Vienna. Trump said that he would actually consider going to Israel. I guess if Trump was invited, he would show up, but I don't think that's going to happen. If Trump went to Israel, well, that would piss off the Biden White House in a big, big way. But Trump did say that he's worried about the fate of his country. He said that the USA has become an object of ridicule around the world. And he's right. He is right. So we had another apparent bombing, and I have to say apparent because collective West media and even the Greek media, those are the words that they're running with. They can't confirm anything. That is what they are saying. But the Greek Orthodox Church in Gaza, I believe the third oldest Christian church in the world, the Church of Saint Porphyrius in Gaza, the grounds around the church, not the church itself, the grounds of the church were apparently bombed, according to a Hamas statement. Now, the reason I'm wording it like this is because this is how the Greek media, the collective West media, is phrasing this attack on this church. They are saying that they can't confirm it. They are saying that this is a Hamas statement, and that's what they're going with. There are reports that 40 people died in this apparent bombing, and that's where we are. I can't really say much more because we don't really have much more information. 4 missiles, according to a Hamas report, were sent into the third oldest church in the world. where 400 people were praying. The Wall Street Journal, the title of the Wall Street Journal article is Blast Goes Off at Orthodox Church Campus in Gaza. You know, the hospital missile bomb attack, the waters have been muddied so much. You know, there's so much now fog around the attack in of the hospital or the hospital parking lot or whatever, that now it seems like every attack is going to have like this caveat of, well, this is a statement from Hamas and we don't know, and you know, that's what it's going to be. So we're never going to really know from this point going forward what's happening, because, you know, the attacks in Gaza are just going to be labeled as Hamas statements, which cannot be confirmed. That's what we're going to have now going forward. So the media, they did their job. They did their job. The media, social media, they pulled it off. So every attack now from this point onwards is going to have to be called alleged. Hamas is reporting and we can't confirm, and that's going to be how it goes. Anyway, a horrific development, very sad development, that there apparently are missile strikes around a church, one of the oldest churches in the world. Well, I could go down, can't I? Yes, I can. That's what I'm going to do. So, should we do some lighter news? Maybe pre-clown world to get to our clown world. I don't know if this is a clown world, but there was a Russian journalist who was working for Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, an editor out of Kazan, but her home base is Prague. She's Russian, and she was arrested. Her name is Alsu Kurmasheva, and Borrell, he put out a tweet saying the EU condemns the detention of Alsu Kurmasheva, journalist with RFERL, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and dual U.S.-Russian citizen. Journalists must be protected and allowed to exercise their profession freely. Russia must respect its international human rights obligations, including freedom of expression. Is Borrell going to put out a similar statement with regards to Julian Assange or Gonzalo Lira? Doubt it. Doubt it that Jungle Joseph is going to say the same about them. Now, look, I don't know anything about this journalist. I do know Radio Free Europe is U.S. government-sponsored propaganda. Maybe if you don't want to call it propaganda, you can't deny the fact that it's U.S. funded and U.S. sponsored. So obviously, this editor was working for a U.S. Publication. I think the charges are that she was collecting like military data or university professors who are fighting in the conflict, and she was preparing some story about that. Let me see if I have it here. And she was going to pass this on to the West, something like that. Let me see. Russian law enforcement has detained Alsu Kurmasheva, an editor from the U.S. state-run media outlet Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, over failing to register as a foreign agent and gathering sensitive military data. Two sources report on Thursday, according to both RFE-RFL and the local news agency Tatar Informed, Kurmasheva was apprehended in the city of Kazan, central Russia. She normally lives in Prague. Here we go. According to the source, the editor is believed to have obtained data about local university professors who had been allegedly mobilized amid the Ukraine conflict. Since then, proceeded to use this information to compile alternative analytical materials for foreign institutions to discredit Russia, the news agency claims. Okay. So that's the charge. She was collecting military data involving university professors fighting in the conflict, mobilized in the conflict, and she failed to register as a foreign agent. Look, she should be deported. That would be my position on this. Don't arrest her. She broke the law, I guess, but she is a Russian citizen too, so this is a tough one. I always say when it comes to journalists, even if they are fifth column, which it looks like this is what she is, working against the government, and I know the Russian government has certain laws with regards to the collection of military data. There are laws about that, so she should have known this, but you could say she's a journalist, and so she's detained, but she should be deported and not allowed to go back to Russia. I think that would probably be the best way forward for this, as they should do with Assange and Gonzalo Lira. The Zelensky regime should deport Gonzalo Lira, never to come back to Ukraine, and the UK should deport Assange to a country of his choosing, never to be allowed to travel back to the UK. That should be the line that these countries take with regards to the arrest of journalists. Anyway, all right. A couple more stories, and we'll wrap this video up. How about this title from The Guardian? Russia recruits Serbs in drive to replenish military forces in Ukraine. Oh my God. Russia's military is 50% destroyed, so now they're actually recruiting Serbs to fight. Wow. And then you get into the article itself, and it says that Russia is drafting, or is planning to draft, not thousands, not tens of thousands, but hundreds of Serbs into the military. And they make it seem like this is some secret operation, when in fact, even The Guardian admits that the Russian government is on record publicly. They've stated that anyone that has military experience and volunteers to fight in the conflict, they can get a fast track towards Russian citizenship. This is not a secret. And we're not talking about 1,000 Serbs or 2,000 Serbs. We're talking about 100. That's what the article from The Guardian admits. Like 100, 150 Serbs. That's what Russia is using to replenish their battered and destroyed military. And finally, a clown world from the Daily Mail. Putin deploys combat dolphins to take on Ukrainian commandos. Trained animals are moved closer to the front line following spate of raids in Crimea. So the Russian government, they're not only recruiting 100 Serbs to fight Ukraine, but they're also recruiting dolphins. And they're moving the dolphins to the front lines. Every 3 months, they bring up this dolphin thing. Like every 3 months, like clockwork. They talk about the dolphins that Putin is recruiting. Let's go this way. Every 3 months, those dolphins, which I think is kind of cool, if you want my opinion. The fact that Putin has dolphins fighting for Russia, that's pretty neat, you know? Oh, man. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to Duran Shop. Pick up this Zelensky special green jacket. 20% off all merch on the Duran Shop. Use the code TheDuran20. Take care.